Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. By far, the biggest storyline surrounding this Florida Gators program going into 2025 is what is this coaching staff going to look like going into the 2025 year? A lot of rumors, a lot of names that have been kind of spit out over the last couple of weeks. Now, as far as the offensive coordinator position, at this point, I'd be very surprised if they brought in anybody. It looks like Billy Napier is going to be calling the plays going into 2025. Now, hey, I've been very vocal that I think Billy Napier as a head coach could use an offensive coordinator calling the plays. Billy Napier is going to live or die by that sword. You go into 2025 with all the pieces to the puzzle that you need to have a very good offense. If this offense does not work out the way that we think it can on paper, Billy Napier's probably not seeing 2026. So he's putting all his eggs in his basket in terms of calling his plays. It sounds like going into the 2025 year. Now, on the defensive side of the football, it's been equally as interesting, right? Austin Armstrong leaves for Houston. There is question marks about the future of Ron Roberts. You've seen some names get thrown out there. You've seen Jay Bateman's name get thrown out there. You've seen Will Muschamp's name get thrown out there. We haven't really had this conversation all that much because there hasn't been a ton of information, rock solid information for us to go on. And I don't really like talking about the message board rumors all that much. Vinnie Sunseri interviewing with Florida, that's happening. There are some legs to this story. I want to get into one, what I think of Vinnie Sunseri, who on the surface and from what I've heard, just a rising star in terms of the coaching landscape, has rubbed elbows with a lot of really good coaches, including Nick Saban, including Bill Belichick. And I want to talk about what it would look like for Vinnie Sunseri joining the staff as well. Massive fan of his brother, who just took the offensive coordinator job at UCLA as well. Now, before we get into it, as always, Florida fans, let it fly in the comment section. We haven't had this many conversations about the staff because there just hasn't been a ton of information to go off of. Would love to hear how you guys are feeling. To the Florida Gator fans, it's been a blast talking this team, and it's no secret that I am extremely high on the roster that Florida has going into 2025. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's start with what it would potentially look like. Now, if Vinnie Sunseri gets hired by Florida, we'll get a little bit more into what that staff would look like. We'll probably find out, what role he's going to play. I think it would look very similar to the relationship that Ron Roberts and Austin Armstrong had in 2024, where Austin Armstrong seemed like a defensive coordinator, very young, that was probably a little bit over his skis in the 2023 year. You're bringing Ron Roberts, a grizzled veteran in terms of calling plays and coaching defense, to come and help Austin Armstrong. Now, that relationship at first we thought was, all right, Austin Armstrong's going to call the plays. Ron Roberts is going to be that, almost, I would say older brother, but that kind of senior advisor to Austin Armstrong. I think as we found out, I think Ron Roberts had a little bit more control over that defense than we thought he would before the 2024 year. Here's my personal take on it. I would love to see Vinnie Sunseri get added to this Florida Gator staff. You can slap a co-DC label on him, but have Ron Roberts continue to have the most input on this defense. Because I look at this Florida Gators defense in the end of 2024. Look, there just were not many defenses that were playing to the level Florida was. It was legitimately one of the better defenses that we saw in the country. And you are returning a lot of those pieces going into 2025. Keep the good thing rolling and let Ron Roberts continue to work with this defense with a heavy hand, because it clearly was going in the right direction. Now you're bringing Vinnie Sunseri as potentially, that defensive coordinator in waiting, but also just a really good coach that seems to have earned the respect of a lot of really, really good coaches. Nick Saban hires him. Coach Belichick hires him, then promotes him. And then you kind of get a feel for what this guy was thought of, because now Billy Napier, who rubbed elbows with him at Alabama, wants to hire him. Steve Belichick, Bill's younger brother or son, hired him at Washington. And Charles Kelly, who knew him from his Alabama days as well, just hired him to be the defensive coordinator for Jacksonville State going into the 2025 year. It is very clear that wherever this guy goes, Like he impresses the coaches, and it kind of is just elevating real quickly. Now, what role would he play? That's the kind of murky part. But I think this is when you get the opportunity to hire a young coach. He's only 33 years old, who is clearly on the fast track. Go out and do it. You can never have enough good coaches on your staff, and that's something that nobody ever wants to talk about, but it's such an important role when you're running a program like Florida. You look at Nick Saban and all this success. You look at Kirby Smart and all this success. What do they all have in common? They hire elite staffs around them. You look at the staff that Nick Saban had year after year at Alabama. You look at Kirby Smart, the staff he had year after year. I mean, it's just guys that are really good coaches that are moving in the right direction. If you want to get to that level as a program, you got to routinely hire really good staffs. Now, Billy Napier, maybe early in his tenure, probably missed on some hires. I will say that staff in 2024, I was really impressed with some of the young talent that's been developed on both sides of the football. Vinnie Sunseri, I think, only helps this staff going into 2025. And at the end of the day, you could potentially grab a 33-year-old sitting defensive coordinator at Jacksonville State, which is now a FBS program, G5 program, and bring him over to Florida. To me, this makes a lot of sense, but I'll continue to bang the table. I don't want Ron Roberts to go anywhere, because you look at what Ron Roberts was doing with this defense going at the end of 2024. Something was clearly working, and it was pretty clear that Ron Roberts was kind of that driving force. Keep a good thing going. You look at Florida, and one of the things that I love about this team the most going into 2025, one is the quarterback, DJ Lagway. Two is the continuity they have on both sides of the football. You want to keep that continuity as much as you can going into 2025. Ron Roberts, to me, plays a big role in it. Vinnie Sunseri only makes the staff better. And he's got some real ties to the state of Alabama. Grew up there, played his high school football there. Florida's increasingly going up into the state of Alabama and some of that quote-unquote SEC territory, Alabama, Georgia, and grabbing some really good players. It certainly wouldn't hurt on the recruiting trail either. This, to me, would make a lot of sense. We'll see if Billy Napier in Florida can get this one done. On the surface, it looks like a very similar relationship that we saw with Ron Roberts and Austin Armstrong. Vinnie Sunseri, opposite, just kind of a cooler version than Austin Armstrong, but a young defensive coach that seems to have a lot of respect across the country in terms of the job he has done at his previous stops. Anytime you get a coach that is young like this, has been on Coach Saban's staff, Coach Belichick's staff. Hey, and Jed Fish's staff too. Look, Jed Fish, to me, hires really good staff members around him too. This would make a lot of sense for me. We'll see if it gets done, and we'll talk about it more if it does, and we get some more clear information in terms of what it's going to look like with this coaching staff. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let it fly in the comment section. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.